Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be talking about the threat of a severe weather outbreak across the southern plains tonight and tomorrow. This will bring the threat for damaging winds, large to very large hail, and a few tornadoes. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today that will lead into that threat for severe weather both tonight and tomorrow. We're going to begin with the southern plains. That is where showers and storms have been ongoing throughout the day today. We have a low pressure system located back over near the Rocky Mountains, and this is what's going to basically be strengthening over the next 24 hours. You might notice across areas like Oklahoma, there are some red colors showing there. That means some pretty high cloud tops with embedded thunderstorms, and we're going to see more of that this afternoon and evening with the threat for very large hail and even some damaging winds. I would not rule out a threat for a couple of tornadoes as well. And believe it or not, there's actually a chance for severe weather back down in Florida over the next 24 to 48 hours. Large hail and damaging winds will be possible, and you might be wondering what is happening here across the United States because there's a lot of cloud cover. In addition to that, we have a very unstable environment across the entire country for the most part. It's all due to two different low pressure systems. We have one back up into Canada that's been sitting there for days on end. It's been negatively tilted for a while. Rain just kind of continues around there and a lot of cloud cover more than anything. And our next system that's located over the Rocky Mountains right now is actually a positively tilted trough, something that we've really not seen much this spring. We've seen a lot of negatively tilted troughs, which those usually bring more significant severe weather, but in this case it's so far to the south that we're going to have a pretty strong pull out of the Gulf of Mexico with a lot of moisture to be able to really create a pretty significant severe weather potential for tomorrow across areas in the southern plains. And you'll notice going through Wednesday and Thursday that low pressure system will eventually move into the central plains, and this will continue to bring showers and storms across the southeast, keeping the weather pattern very active. And then once we go into the weekend, another low pressure system will develop, and we'll see more showers and storms potentially in the southern plains, and another threat for more rain back over into the eastern half of the United States. So it's going to be very, very active over the next 7 to 10 days. Though not all these areas will see severe weather, there will be a lot of cloud cover, a lot of showers and storms. It's going to be very active to say the least across the country. So let's really talk about more in depth about the severe weather potential. We're going to begin with today and tomorrow. Again, look down here to the south. That is where the severe weather will be most likely to occur both tonight and tomorrow. The threat of severe weather will be lower on Thursday, but there is a chance back down into the southeast. Once we go into Friday, that is when a low pressure system will be back over in the Ohio Valley. This will bring more rain than anything. I'm not really anticipating a whole lot of severe weather out of this particularly, but make sure that you're aware that there might be an isolated severe storm. Once we go into Friday night into Saturday, that is when more showers and storms are possible back down in Texas due to another low pressure system. I know, it is so active, it's actually kind of crazy. Once we go into Saturday into Sunday, more showers and storms across the Midwest from a very strong low pressure system, and then more showers and storms back down in the southeast. So again, it's going to be very active over the next several days. We'll keep you posted with everything that you need to know ahead of all the storms. Let's discuss that severe weather threat for both tonight and tomorrow. Tonight's threat is not too concerning, but you should be weather aware tonight and have multiple ways to receive alerts because significant hail, damaging winds, and even a couple tornadoes will be possible, especially across that slight risk region, which does extend from southwest Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle back through areas near Houston, Texas. The main concern tonight will be large to very large hail, but the tornado risk is actually there tonight. We do have a low-end chance for maybe an isolated tornado or two. The best chance of that will be west of the DFW Metroplex, back near Abilene, Childress, Texas, just to the east of Lubbock and as well as Amarillo. That is your best chance for maybe an isolated tornado threat. And also the hail potential is definitely there tonight. We do have a hatched area that represents the chance for hail upwards of 3 inches in diameter is not out of the question across this region tonight. If any storms are able to become strong enough with very strong updrafts, we very well could see some fairly significant hail west of the DFW Metroplex. So make sure you're protecting your vehicles tonight. In terms of the timing, again, I'm not too concerned about tonight just due to the nature that these storms will not be numerous to widespread. It'll be very isolated, but you do want to make sure that you are weather aware tonight. Storms will fire up right around 5, 6 o'clock in southwest Oklahoma. We might see a couple more fire up back over in West Texas. This area here is a bit of a question mark. Will storms actually form is a bit of a question at this point. The warm front will be lifting up to the north, and depending on how fast it lifts to the north, we might end up seeing some severe weather, but at this time it looks kind of uncertain in terms of where we'll actually see severe storms. So just make sure you're weather aware across that area. If any storms are able to develop, significant severe weather may occur. For tomorrow, things become much more significant. We are going to be watching for the threat of all modes of of severe weather, including damaging winds, large to very large hail, and even potentially a few tornadoes across a large chunk, really, of the southern plains. This is from Oklahoma back through Texas. Don't get too caught up in the enhanced risk, even though this is where we'll see the most significant severe weather. There is a chance outside of that in that marginal threat area that extends all the way back into western Mississippi. Also, you might notice back down in Florida, there is a slight risk of severe weather. That is going to be for large hail and damaging winds with any storms that bubble up. We're not really going to talk about Florida much, but just be weather aware tomorrow that there might be some storms that fire up that produce severe weather. But talking about areas in the southern plains, that enhanced risk of severe weather does include the DFW Metroplex, back through southern North Texas near Waco, and back into eastern North Texas. Main concern will be the threat of large hail, especially west of I-35. That is where significant hail could occur. With the initial supercells that fire up, this is where we'll be watching for the threat of hail upwards of 3 inches in diameter. That's around baseball-sized hail that we could see out of an isolated storm or two. But the general idea of things when it comes to hail is not everybody will see hail, and the hail that falls will probably be mostly between quarter size to around golf ball sized hail out of the most severe storms. But again, we could see some isolated amounts higher. And damaging winds is actually the main concern for tomorrow. That is because we're watching a linear line of storms. That means that we're going to be watching a line of storms pushing towards the Metroplex and back through areas really all across North Texas. This is a 30% chance within a 25-mile radius of damaging winds. And flying trampolines will be possible tomorrow. Believe it or not, this is the first high risk of flying trampolines that we've had since early March in North Texas. So make sure that you are bringing down your trampolines, or at least making sure they're hatched to the ground. This is primarily for the risk of unhatched trampolines that could go flying. There's also a 5% probability within a 25-mile radius of a tornado across areas in North Texas. This is primarily along the I-20 corridor. So from basically DFW back through Abilene, that is where we could see a couple of tornadoes appear, but overall the threat of long-tracked and strong tornadoes at this time is low. Now, in terms of the tornado parameter, this gives us an idea of what the tornado risk actually is. You'll notice the highest values are right near that I-20 corridor across areas like DFW. Values between 1 to 2 indicates at least a low threat for a tornado or two. So make sure that you're weather aware tomorrow, have a tornado action plan in place just in case there's any sort of tornadic activity near the DFW Metroplex or even in surrounding areas. There is a low chance outside of there. In terms of the dew points, this is a big characteristic for tomorrow. How far north will the warm front go? Right now it's being forecasted to go right about up to Route 380. That's kind of the area that this will be going towards, and that is where significant severe weather will really be most possible, right around Route 380 and just south of there. And for those that are not familiar with Route 380, that is right about here. So just south of there, that is where the best chance of severe weather will lie tomorrow. But we could see some hail just to the north of there, maybe some isolated damaging winds, and that is also where the highest threat for a tornado is. Even though the tornado threat isn't really high, that is again where the highest tornado threat would be, right near that warm front. Now, for the timing, North Texas is really the main area for severe weather tomorrow. Near the Red River, we might see some early morning elevated storms. These might produce some large hail. This would be north of the warm front. Once we go into the afternoon, that is when showers and storms will begin to fire up back over in western North Texas. These are the ones that are going to be the most concerning for large hail, damaging winds, and an isolated tornado risk. By 6 to 7 o'clock, storms are marching through the DFW Metroplex, and by 8 to 9 o'clock, storms will be rolling through areas like Dallas and eventually into Kaufman County. That is where we could see some large to very large hail, damaging winds, and again, maybe an isolated tornado. And by the overnight hours, that is when a linear line of storms will continue to march to the east and the south. This is where damaging winds will primarily become a factor back through areas in southeast Texas and even into western Mississippi. And when this event is all said and done by late Wednesday, we'll be watching for the potential for upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rain in some areas. So make sure if there's any flooded roadways, turn around, don't drown. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting and All Dents Repair.